our anchor Devin Morgan is in Parliament. He joins us now live. So Devin, COSATU just releasing a statement in response to the speech saying that it notes that it's disappointed in the underwhelming and provocative budget table by the minister. What's business saying?
Yes, indeed. Let me just stick on that COSATU point for a second. Speaking to Matthew Parks just a few moments ago, yeah, not a happy man, not a happy organisation. They're saying indeed it is provocative, but the minister had to do something. And we're going to find out now exactly how far those cuts really went in terms of business. I've got the MD of the Banking Association with me. He's also the Deputy CEO of BUSA. Well, some might say this was a politically brave speech. Others might say, it didn't go too far enough, Cass. But there are people smiling today, especially those that know they don't get those tax increases.
Yeah, Devin, let me start by saying, just painting the context under which the speech happened.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, we've got a serious economic, social and political crisis, okay, which needed a very brave budget that had significant cuts in public expenditure, because that's the single biggest issue that's causing the budget deficit. I think that what we also needed is some clear indication from government of the structural changes in the economy. And I think to veer away at this point in time from, I think, plowing money into projects that some of us would feel are not necessary. So I think that's the context. And within that context, I think the minister did the best he could, because they had to balance the economics with the politics, and he did the best he could under those circumstances. So the good stuff, no significant increases in taxes, very good given the current economic climate. I think allocation of funds towards the NPA and other crime-fighting agencies to actually follow up on the work being done by the Ndondo Commission and get cases to court, good, well-packaged cases to court and get people into jail, I think is a good thing. I think recognizing that we need to put more money into municipalities for service delivery and so on is a good thing. But there's been no talk in the speech about the fact that most of the municipalities are dysfunctional, according to the Auditor General. Yeah. What do we do about that? Okay, so I think there have been some good things. Look, the public sector wage bill, the decrease in the wage bill, business has been calling for a decrease. I think that was a politically brave thing to do. I think he had to have some decreases in the wage bill. So I think the negative for us is the State Bank. Yeah. The good thing about the State Bank is that it will be legislated and regulated under the Banks Act.
He was pretty excited about that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I mean, the minister has been talking about the State Bank for quite some time, tweeting about the State Bank. So I'm not surprised. But I think the good thing is that he made it very clear it will be a commercial bank, regulated under the Banks Act by the Prudential Authority, and will work on commercial principles. That's a good thing.
Do you think it will do anything different from what your banks are doing?
That's the issue. I'm not convinced what it will do differently. I think that what would be far more beneficial is to have the sort of conversation between commercial banks, cooperative banks and others that already exist, and government, to see how do we work together to make dysfunctional markets functional. Because that's what the State Bank should be doing. And I think we can do that now. But we'll wait and see. Let's see how this is structured. Let's keep the minister to his promise that it will be regulated in that way and see what happens. But the last thing we need is another state-owned institution to be bailed out by the fiscus, and that we'll watch very carefully. The sovereign wealth fund is not necessarily a negative, but I agree with the minister. The minister did say it's a long-term goal, and I agree it's an ideal we need to strive towards. Because I think to have a sovereign wealth fund that's properly capitalized is good for counter-cyclical times, it's good for interventions when country finds itself under economic stress and so on. But where I disagree is the minister saying, for instance, that income from spectrum will be used to capitalize the fund. I think that any income government has for the next probably decade that's not used toward government services must be used to reduce the current debt. We're paying upwards of 15 cents in the rand on debt. We've got to reduce that debt so that we can divert funds towards where they should be going, and we can move from a budget deficit towards a budget surplus.
I'm going to have to leave it there. Cascavadia, thanks very much indeed. But Jahan, it does point out to one very significant part about all the budgets that have transpired recently, and that is that debt to service to debt costs rather. And Cascavadia is saying, brave budget, but of course still a lot more needs to be done to convince us that we could get this economy growing and we can sort out the debt. There's no clear word on that.
All right, we'll talk to you after 5 o'clock. That's Devin Morgan in Parliament.